Hello, everyone. Today we're going to spend a little time looking at the common similarities, especially with regards to the common themes found in the novels Great Expectations and Far from the Madding Crowd. I hope you're able to see this PPT, which I'm sharing, in which I will be discussing 5 major themes which are common in both Great Expectations and Far from the Madding Crowd. Great Expectations, of course, by Charles Dickens, and Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. Both are masterpieces of English literature, and it is my pleasure to see what the common similarities or a thread that runs through them and try to unravel it for you in the next few minutes. One common strand or theme which we would be able to see is social class and mobility. Both the novels vehemently critique the Victorian obsession with status. How do we see this? We see this through the constant challenges that face the central protagonist as they try to achieve upward social mobility. And thus, we also see this explored as both as a dream and sometimes as a trap. It can be something as an ambition that they strive forward, and it can also be an obstacle which challenges them. And then in the end, we see that social mobility is seen to achieve that, to achieve real growth. It isn't about social mobility, but it is about moral growth. And that is the final conclusion that we arrive at in both the novels, to see what is real growth and what does real growth entail. And we arrive at this conclusion because both the central protagonists, after a lot of zigzag paths, arrive at this conclusion of what is real growth and the maturity, and what does maturity entail. It involves a growth of the self, evolving of the self, and it's not about social mobility. Then in the next slide, we also see how identity and transformation is also seen as an important theme in these novels. We see that identity and transformation of both of the characters in both the novels are shaped by choices, and choices that they make, decisions that they take, relationships that they foster, and social forces around them. And we also see that there is a catalyst for change through the intervention of a positive role model in their identity. And this gives them a chance to transform into a better individual. And moving on to love and romantic idealism, which is a theme that is very, very vividly explored in both the novels. We see that the authors explore the consequences of idealized or misguided love, and how people have this illusion of all roses when they look at it being all roses and fairy tales and rainbows when they think about love, but the reality can be very different. This is explored, and the final conclusion that both the authors arrive at is that love requires a sense of humility. It requires a lot of growth, and it requires a lot of patience also. And it also requires a sublimation of the ego and an understanding of one's own self. And then when you come to, there is also a very vivid gender discourse seen in both the novels. We see the status of women and how they have to find their place in a man's world. Submission and selfhood is something that they are born into. And the strong character in the novels have to break out of this to be able to express themselves as real selves. So the search for selfhood is of course, seen in both genders, but the women have it in a much more tougher situation. And the novel critiques Victorian gender norms, especially when it comes to the women, and how women have to break the stronghold that is on them. And it also reflects the idealized or fallen women tropes in patriarchal society. Especially, we see that in the case of Fanny, who makes one wrong decision, and that is the end of her life. Her life is ruined because of a very innocent mistake that she makes, in which she trusts the man that she falls in love with. And then we also see how the social status of women in the Victorian society is often linked to marriage. If they are married, they have some sort of respect. And if they are not, then they are not taken into account. And most of the women are forced into a very repressed state, physically and emotionally, and they have a very limited autonomy, and they're unable to make their individual choices with regard to money or decisions with regard to their love life, and it is very hard for them to have any sort of or sense of autonomy, and they are judged harshly for their individual choices. To wrap up, some of the common themes that we see in both the novels, Great Expectations and Far from the Madding Crowd, are social class and mobility, that is upward mobility. Social ascension is a theme that we see in both the novels. Identity and transformation, especially reflected in the central characters. And the idealized and misguided love and romantic idealism is one theme. And woman in a man's world, and the status of women in the Victorian society, the gender discourse. These are the common themes that we see in both the novels. Thank you.